So when I was about maybe 9 years old, maybe 10 years old, somewhere around there, um, I woke up in the middle of a couple hours into sleep on a school night, hearing my mom screaming and screaming my dad's name. So this was a blood-curdling scream. This wasn't, screams of ecstasy. And I was woken up abruptly and disturbingly. It was disturbing. And I wake up and I see my stepdad's lifeless, kind of non-responsive body on the bed, and my mom kind of cowered over him, screaming his name to kind of address him, to jar him up or something. And I believe half of his body was curled up. So eventually, my mother calls the ambulance. The ambulance comes in with a stretcher. I lived in an apartment. I was raised in an apartment, so it's like a stretcher with ambulance people coming through in general is a very abrasive situation. It's just like right in your face. Well, my stepdad is standing up, but you can see in his eyes he has no idea who he is or where he is. He poops on the floor, and come to find out he's having a seizure. This whole thing is a seizure. We thought it was a stroke. It's a seizure. Not epileptic or anything, a seizure. Out of nowhere. Can happen out of nowhere, right? With no reason, no rhyme. So, lived in an apartment complex, so my mom contacts our neighbor, who we were friendly with, and she also, was well aware of all of my Halloween shenanigans and loud heavy metal music that would play through the wall. So my mom went with my stepdad in the middle of the night, followed him in the stretcher and the ambulance to the hospital. And my neighbor came over, and I was pretty shaken up. I was crying, and it was a total disaster. Life and death, everything just kind of trauma, chaos, And my neighbor says, guess she realized I'm not going to be getting to sleep anytime soon. I don't even remember if I went to school the next day, but excuse my voice. Maybe one day there'll be some healing there, some betterment. Anyways, maybe not. Maybe it'll get worse. Anyways, so my neighbor says, well, what would you just want to sit here? Something along the lines of, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to watch Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And I know he had cable. I didn't have it on VHS. So I might have known that it was on cable. There was no on demand, so what the hell? So, anyways, I was able to watch it. And she watched it with me, probably much to her chagrin. So I say all that because my relationship with horror has been with me for a good deal of my life. And horror is something that has been a great comfort when things go, a great comfort all the time, but a great comfort in the horrors of life. When the lockdown was first announced in 2020 of March, I believe it was Friday the 13th, for COVID. I never read anything like that before. I mean, it really wasn't in our parents' generation or even our grandparents' generation to that extent, like an entire state locking down. It was a little scary. I didn't really know how to process what the hell was happening. And my first response was, I'm going to go downstairs and watch Creepshow 2. And I've mentioned on this channel before that my nights can be rather rough with my health conditions, my rare, bizarre, doctors can't help me health conditions. And debilitating at times, like make me non-functional at times, all these different things with the struggles of, making sure I'm working, making sure I'm taking care and being a part of my family, things like that. So horror is a genre of film, and the soundtrack music, and the music, bands like Pumpkin Witch, Midnight Syndicate, Nox Arcana, and Slasher Dave, and many, many more. And soundtracks to countless films. Horror films. Horror is something that mysteriously soothes me, comforts me, heals me, helps me, and connects with me. I get emotional at the end of Uncle Buck, but I also get the genre of film that makes me the most emotional is horror, because it's like very powerful. Things are powerful. And I can't exactly put it into words, but I can be suffering physically or suffering mentally. I can be, suffering physically or mentally, that covers it. And within 20 minutes of pushing play on the horror film, I am now moving away from those negative thoughts and into mystery, the creepiness, the spookiness, the unknown, the bizarre, the weird, the fantastic, the disturbing, the dark, the ominous, the macabre. And horror has been a great help. And it might not make sense to a lot of people if you're suffering or if the world is crazy. Why would you want to watch horror? Well, the original 1990 TV miniseries, It, based upon the Stephen King book, the original 1991, with Tim Curry as Pennywise the Clown, I think is a great representation of this, possibly. It is a ferociously scary film, and it should be. It absolutely should be. To not be ferociously, powerfully terrifying would really be not serving what it is, which is a horror film. And a horror film where you almost have the incarnation of fear in Pennywise the Clown. Children from dysfunctional households, which would be all of us in some form or fashion, some worse than others, some newsworthy, some more counseling worthy than others, okay? But you have a bunch of kids in the movie, abusive families, psychologically, physically, trauma, all these different things. And at the same time, the personification of fear is trying to kill them. And they must band together to not only face their fears, but also conquer them. Now, you can use your imagination with what I just said about it and what I've been saying about the horror genre, and maybe it has something to do with that and how it meets me. But it does. But it also goes well beyond that as well, into the worlds of imagination and creativity and atmosphere. Atmosphere is something that I'm constantly trying to foster in my living space, in my bedroom, in my bed, in my chair, when I'm working, when I'm in the doctor's office, many times a month. I'm always trying to foster that atmosphere, whether it be with the music of Nox Arcana, or whether it be thinking about the movie I saw last night. And typically what will happen is, or the shirt that I'm wearing. And typically what will happen in the night ritual of kind of my movie watching is, watch the movie, take my shower, think about the movie, which calms me. Yes, a horror movie. And kind of chill a bit before going to sleep on my phone. Now I can watch, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and go right to bed. But I cannot watch the news. The news I will not watch. Movies are movies. Horror movies are horror movies. But I do not want to focus on or watch the news, because that has the opposite effect of horror movies for me. That actually hurts me. Hurts my mind, hurts my body. Not good. But as long as somebody is saying action, and as long as somebody is saying cut, I know I'm in a comforting space of healing. I like to call it spooky comfort mystery. Just do with that what you will. Spooky comfort mystery. Yeah.